Hello, I'm Elgato and welcome back to the start of a brand new series. This is going to be something I do on some Sundays because I honestly think that Sundays are the most chill time of the week, but they're also the most scary time of the week as the day progresses. Like the second half of Sunday is like, everyone has the fear, the dread, the whatever you want to call it inside them because you're thinking about, oh yeah, tomorrow I've got that big business meeting, or even just going to normal work, or even just going to school, or whatever you need to do. Even YouTubers get it, because you know, like that's how Monday to Friday weeks work. Everyone fears Sunday, and I figured with this series, I wanted to kind of add a little bit of like chillness to your Sunday. So even though it's meant to be like a chill series, I want to call it Serious Sunday because it should seriously help in some way. But no, I wanted to do a series where I help to, again, just talk about stuff on Sunday, give you the podcast experience, which a lot of you have been asking for, and we're going to be giving it a little bit of a trial for the next, week or two or something like that. So yeah, Serious Sunday, let me talk about some serious issues that can hopefully help chill down your Sunday, because I really do think that, and deliver some goodness to your ears, because this is going to be using Fortnite background gameplay. Let's even like average Fortnite. I just wanted to have something there that you can watch, but it's not really essential by any definition of the word. So yeah, we got some background gameplay, but it's not about that. It's about the experience of my voice going to your ears, unless you're deaf. Actually, even if you're deaf, I think it still goes to your eardrums. It's just the connection between your eardrums and your brain doesn't work, and that's why you won't hear me. But yeah, so I'm going to be sending this to your ears, and then hopefully you can hear me. If you can't hear me, then I guess that's a whole other issue. Like go to the ear doctor. But no, basically this is going to be a serious kind of series about that kind of thing. Because I really do think one of the best ways you can improve your whole week is to improve your Monday. How do you improve your Monday? You do it by improving your Sunday. Although you could arguably like keep that series going and be like, oh yeah, how do you improve your Sunday though? Improving your Saturday, and then improve your Saturday by improving your week. And I'm just saying, by watching this one video, your entire life will improve. And now I'm starting to sound like one of those banner ads that will try and sell you like, I don't know, acai berries or pills or something. But no, I really do think that is the case. And I think, honestly, one of the real weird things that we do as humans is we're always like looking forward to the next thing. The thing that keeps you going, through the week is the fact that, oh, the weekend's coming up. And one of the things that makes the weekend so great is the fact that you have not quite the fear, but like the knowledge that on Monday, the week's going to begin and this is going to end, so you got to enjoy it now. There's something about like, if you had an unlimited, an amount of something to enjoy, you'd enjoy it slightly less. Like if someone said, guess what, here is, an unlimited, a whole room in your house, it's just filled with like your favorite drink. Would you drink it? Well, I mean, first of all, it'd probably get old. But let's assume they're like, here is your favorite thing in the world. If you get too much of it, you'll probably be bored of it. Like even pizza, which I acknowledge this day is like the best food in the world. You could eat it in so many different variants and you'd still love it. I still think after like a year of pizza, you'd be like, actually, I could do with like, a burger or like, whatever other food that you love on the same level. Because I think any particular problem in anything in life is always going to be like eventually bored of. You have to have some end to it, some end that you know about. And although that's like a real problem because it kind of implies that like, oh, everything's going to be defined by when it's over. Like holidays are only so great because it's over in 2 weeks. Like you wouldn't just enjoy laying in the sun or whatever people do on holidays all day for a year, right? Because that's like not good. As humans, we're designed to do things, but we're also designed to not enjoy doing them. And I'm still not sure why that is. Like I honestly wish that the number one thing my brain loved was work, and then maybe like 5 minutes break for like a pill off like food, because that's a real thing they do in like like Silicon Valley with like the engineers and stuff. They work the vast majority of their day. They like take a pill or they're trying to make pills that you can just eat, and then that's like your whole nutrition. Then you go to sleep, you wake up, and you work the whole day. Those people love their jobs, or I hope so anyway. Either that or it's the saddest existence ever. But that's like the dream, right? To just enjoy doing something that gives you rewards or something. Or maybe that's not the dream. Maybe that's the anti-dream. Because then you think about it from the other angle of like, oh, but then you're just doing something that you don't for someone else all life. And I think the truth is like if you find like the dream thing you want to do and then it also turns out to be work, or maybe if you find the dream work and it turns out to be a vacation, I'm not sure I'm going with this, but I think living something so that you can wait for something else is a little bit of a dangerous idea, because again, at least to me it sounds dangerous, because the whole idea of like waiting for something so something else can happen, that just leads you down the eventual hole of like, well, all of life exists so that death can happen, and it's like, well, that's kind of a bummer, right? No one wants that at the end. Although maybe that's the only reason that gives it purpose. Like there's this whole debate over like, would you enjoy immortality? And I think some of the logic is like, well, I mean, not really, because then it's scary having millions of years. One of the whole things that like makes Black Mirror and the the robots that can think so scary is that they live forever and they can live a million years in like a second. That is scary stuff, right? That is the scariest thing you can imagine. That sort of torture. And I know it's something interesting, right? So anyway, let's talk about Sunday a little bit. I think it's the chillest day of the week, but I think you need to have a little bit of a chill experience where we talk about some things, and one of the things I really want to talk about is the fact that the whole world will lie to you sometimes. Maybe this whole video is a lie, because I feel like a lot of videos are all designed as like a subtle lie to get, you know, like that's, in a way, when people complain about clickbait, they complain because they think it's a lie, although people love the lies because that's how, like, you know, any form of like journalism works, or like any form of news. It's all about like creating the things that people want to hear in sort of, you know, that is how all of news works these days. It's depressing, but it's true. You know, news doesn't try to find stories that are real, and, you know, unless it's like a really established thing. Instead, they try to find the things that you want to, you know are real, and they'll try and turn it into a story. That's like a really depressing but true fact about the world. But yeah, the truth is like the world will lie to you sometimes, and the truth is you want the world to lie to you. I don't, maybe not all of you. I would like to believe most people don't, but the truth is enough people are just okay with it or want it, that's just how things have to work. I've said this before, but the reason you have to do that on YouTube is because if you don't hit the certain critical threshold of like people clicking the video, then guess what? It's shown as having a low engagement, a low click-through rate, and it's not shown to more people. That's why, you know, on my channel, I have 4,000 videos. Some of those videos are in the hundreds of views. Some of them are in the millions of views. It's not because one video was 1,000 times better than the other one, although maybe you could think that way. But the truth is, it's just about, oh yeah, one was like 10% better, you know, like more clickable or something, and therefore it went through the system. And it's interesting that there's a whole bunch of like, you know, the lying to society thing is like a more and more prevalent part of how things work, and I wish there was a solution to it. But I think the simplest solution is like, let society lie to you, but then just be aware of it, you know, like, because these, you know, the best solution, the ideal one, would be like, oh, how about we remove all lying? But, you know, if you remove all lying, then you just get exaggeration of the truth, and I think it's honestly a part of human culture to tell stories, because stories by themselves are a lie. Like the whole, think about Herobrine. I'm sure someone had good intentions when they created Herobrine as a fun joke, but then, you know, the story of it is fine. Like, you shouldn't be like, oh, that's a lie, there's no real Herobrine. But the truth is like, it eventually becomes a lie of epic proportions when it expands. So yeah, you can't ever like remove, like, I guess, lying on that sort of scale from people, but you can always be aware of it, and I think that's the best way. I was thinking about this quite a bit, especially in the shower. This was a shower thought, so, you know, top quality thinking going on there. Is the fact that there is so many situations in life where you are lied to because, honestly, they need to lie to people or the whole system doesn't work. And if you're aware of it, you can have like a little bit of an edge on it. And that sounds crazy on the surface. Like, what do you mean by that? It's like, yeah. So I figured, you know, I'd actually like think of like an example or two. And the first one that always comes to my brain is the whole idea of like qualifications. So when you're in school or in any form of education, because I mean, I don't know, like sometimes it's called like college, uni, but in particular, I noticed this in college because this is where most people were fully aware of it. But in school, they just tell you, oh yeah, you need to learn this maths so you can do this test, so you can prove that you've done maths to your employer, and your employer knows that you're really good at maths because you have an A grade in maths, or whatever you call it in your country, a 9 grade in maths. Whatever is good, you can show to your employer, and you can show, I'm good at maths, I'm good at English, or whatever your language is. I assume it's English if you watch the video, and I'm good at maybe science too. They're the 3 ones you need to know, and then also you can get one in history, and that's what you just think, that's what they tell you, but the truth is that's not really how it works. The whole point of those qualifications, and the whole reason why they only ever require C, like honestly, having a grade above C, I'm talking UK only here, sorry, if you're in US or another country, this is probably different. But in the UK, they check if you have C's, and then that's it. They might need to see the physical document, but all they want to see is that you could do enough work. So again, I don't know how many hours in a week it would be, but you go to school for like 25, 30 hours in the UK a week, and then it's like, oh yeah, you can do enough work to make like a 40-hour week to show that you can do that responsibility just because you're told to. That's what they want from you, and if you can show that you've done that, then they'll employ you. But yeah, because a lot of people, you know, like they're not sure how to take responsibilities, they're not sure how to do this. That's the whole point behind like schools and exams and stuff. It's just to show like, if I need to do something, then I can do the thing that I need to do. And I know that sounds like a really weird thing, and it's like, is that even lying though? It's like, yeah. And I really do think it is lying. I think if we were just honest about that, like we need to, you know, you need to show that you'd be willing to do these things just because you have to, then more people who right now are like confused by the current system, like in school, I didn't care because it's like, you know, I'm not learning things that I even want to know here. I'd rather sleep because I didn't get enough sleep last night. But if I realized, like, you know, if you just have to get these and then your whole life gets easier, because teachers will try to say that, but they'll never give you the quite right phrase, then that's the thing like that. And another example, because again, like the whole, I feel like it's really easy to just talk about like, oh, schooling system sucks, because It's not designed to like teach. It's designed to like, honestly, okay, this isn't even conspiracy level. This is just like kind of how it is level. But the truth behind why school, you know, everyone goes to school now. It's like semi-mandatory. In some countries you can be homeschooled. In some countries you can't be homeschooled. You have to go to these schools, right? And the reason that got support, like you might think that's crazy that people send their children away for so long. And the truth behind it is because they kind of want to send their children away. Like dealing with a child like all day, that must be exhausting, and you can't just be doing that. So instead people are like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if there was this mandatory thing the child just had to do, you know? Like, I can't do anything about it. It's the system, man. So yeah, people love the system because they can send, you know, their children away for like 6-7 hours a day. And yeah, that's why it's such a, you know, poorly planned system. It's just like, yep, we have to build these things just so that like people can be happy with it. And you know, because although it might seem like, oh no, the school should be built around educating you, it's like, well, I mean, whose incentive is it to educate you? I mean, maybe the people who employ you, but they're, you know, they don't have a say on the school system. Instead, like the only people who do have a say on it aren't interested in you. They're interested in people who, you know, make them work. And it's a really weird system where you just like hope the circle keeps going. But anyway, let's not talk about that, because again, I feel like you can only talk about these grand things of like, why was something invented, without starting to sound a bit crazy. But you know, maybe that's what this whole thing is about. But yeah, the key point here is like, I think things are invented not for the you know, you tell people things are invented for a reason. Oh, that's perfect. It cycles back around to my point. You know, it's a lie of a system. Like you create the system and you say it's for one reason because everyone wants to say they like this one reason, but really it's kind of for another reason. And you know, to give you another example of a smaller one that's not quite so evil, whenever an airline has like a you know, a flight time, they'll put up somewhere like, oh yeah, gate closes 1 hour before the flight, or gate closes 45 minutes before the flight. But the truth is, with some exceptions, the gate will close like 20 minutes before your flight. But they want to get you there 45 minutes before because they know some percentage of people are just so bad at tracking time. Or some percentage of people will be like, you know, I'll just wait, you know, I'll wait 5 more minutes. Like, well, they're going to leave without me. And the truth is they probably won't leave without, you know, most of their passengers. They kind of need you on that flight or they have to rebook you. So because there's all that sorts of things, they really try to get some panic in you to get you there at the time. And I've said this before, like people have been yelling like, oh, it's the final call, when no one's even boarded the plane yet, because they just want to get you there. That's in their interest. All it is like, lie to you, say it's closing now, because then you'll show up. And honestly, because there's some number of people who will, you know, be so bad at their time that they'll delay the whole flight, it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship where they need to lie to you and you need to just like accept that lie. But again, it's always best when you understand the lie in the system. Like I feel like if there's one public service, you know, announcement you could do, or like one key piece of knowledge you need to look up in every case, it's where the world is saying something, but really the opposite is true. It's like just a useful thing to know. Like, for instance, when you know, the school system, knowing that you just need that qualification to prove you did a thing, it's way better than thinking it's some grandiose statement of how good you are at mathematics, because it's not really that. It's just like, look, Mr. Employer, I'm either really talented or I can follow instructions long enough to learn this basic stuff. And once you realize that, it's like, oh, I would like a job later, wouldn't I? Yeah, I quite like one. How about I do this stuff? And again, I feel like with every system, as the lie, you know, once the lie is uncovered, they'll just create another one, right? But as long as the lie is in place, being the one person who does know about it and can uncover it, I think that's a really good position to be in. So there you go. There's a couple of lies about the world. Airlines will tell you to be there like 45 minutes before. I think 30 minutes is like the safe distance. 20 minutes, like, unless it's a really big flight, you'll probably still get on. And also, school isn't invented to educate people, although that's like, you know, I think there's always been some amount of, you know, people who go into it to educate. I think the system as a whole isn't there to educate you. Instead, it's there to, again, kind of keep you just doing a thing. Because again, I've never actually raised a child. Fun fact, I say wife and kids a lot, but I don't have a wife and children. I've said it enough now that people have like started to think it's real, and maybe it's one of those jokes that just becomes real enough when you say it. Like, well, I joke too much about having a wife and children, and you know, someone showed up one day and was my wife, so I guess, well, what am I going to do about it? So let's hope that doesn't really happen. But yeah, basically, the interesting thing, you know, to follow on from that is the idea of like, if you say something for long enough as a joke, it eventually becomes real on YouTube, because not everyone has seen the entire catalog. Not everyone knows, you know, not everyone knows me. Even if you're watching this video right now, this might be your first video and you're like, Jesus, this guy is weird. He's like a conspiracy nut that likes to talk about like cheese a lot. Like, what's that all about? Actually, I haven't mentioned cheese in a long time. I think it was pizza I mentioned, actually. But, I mean, pizza has cheese, and cheese is the reason you love pizza. Like, if we're being real, pizza without cheese is the same as saying, like, wouldn't it be cool if we had toast without bread? But the reality is, like, no, actually, it wouldn't be cool if we had that. That's just some, you know, sad butter on the side. So, yeah, there you go. World will lie to you. If you know how not to do it, then there's a key lesson. And I think it's kind of like depressing in a way that we need to have these lies in place, like to get the whole system to work. But I think, you know, rather than being like, well, that's a problem and we'll do something magical about it, I think the better solution is just to say like, well, I mean, if it's happening, and you know, do the best you can of it. Like, I think it's best if we can collectively solve issues. I think there are so many issues in the world that we need to save. Like, think about, you know, like the space travel thing that came up this week, right? It's really important that we collectively want to solve that issue. I think then having some people who like try to solve it, that's a really big thing. But if we have an issue like, let's say, oh, isn't it a shame that right now in the world there are just like, I don't know, too many people? Yeah, too many people, let's say. That's an easy one. There's too many people in the world, people think it's going to get overpopulated, and although, you know, an easy way to fix that one would be if everyone's like, there's too many people, let's all fix it, and never reproduce. The truth is you can create a worse problem by trying to fix the original one, because guess what, if no one has children, world gets extinct. And you might say, well, some people are going to do it, and that means that some people are going to have to, like, be a part of the problem still, although eventually that becomes part of the solution to the new problem you've created. My point being here is, like, I feel like if you have a system which is predicated on everyone fixing the problem, you'll just create another one. I feel like it's not possible to have a solution that wide, but as long as everyone wants to solve the problem, as long as they're not like actively trying, then you actually get some good things, because then people will, like, you know, give them money or support in different ways. And maybe I'm just, you know, talking craziness here. So instead, I want to talk about something really crazy I've noticed, because it's kind of the in-group, out-group thing again. It's one of the big, like, human, like, just things we do, where, like, you know, there are some indicators you get from people where you think, like, oh, that's a nice guy, I want to be friendly with them, and there are some indicators you get where you're like, no, I hate them. They're such a jerk. They're so mean. But the truth is we're all, you know, people, right? We're all formed from the same thing. So I sometimes try to think, like, why is someone not good? You know, why does sometimes you get such a bad vibe from someone, and why do you not? And honestly, I think I'm one of the few people, although everyone thinks they're one of the few people in some category, but I think one of the few people who, like, tries to objectively judge how someone is, you know, both towards me and towards people I like and towards just people in general, because I'd rather be with people who, you know, like, hang around with people who are just nice in general. Like, it's good, right? Like, nice is my favorite description for someone, because it means that you're not just being a jerk for no reason. Maybe sometimes I don't fit in that, and really I just want the opposite of me. I'm not sure what it is for certain, but that's the reality behind, like, the sorts of people that, like, I like around me. But then it goes a little bit beyond that, because sometimes you immediately realize you can, like, click with someone. You know, there's something you can say to everyone to make them friendly. Like, it's usually something that makes you, like, stand out to like, show some form of, like, oh yeah, I'm willing to not be those other people who I can appreciate are probably terrible. Like, for instance, if you're ever dealing with, like, support for something, like support for your bank, support for anything you deal with in the world where you have to call someone up and they have the ability to fix things for you, you want to be friendly to that person, because the immediate response, the reaction you're going to have is like, I'm angry at your company, and all of this sort of thing. But the truth is when you deal with, I guess, any retail, any public face of, like, a company that isn't clearly a, you know, decision maker, you just want to be friendly with them, because it's not going to affect anything negatively. They're never going to be like, aha, this guy's friendly, he's a pushover. But, you know, it might just be the sort of thing where they're like, you know, I can go through some extra steps to help this guy, I'm going to do that. And I think, you know, that if you do that, you know, if you just start being friendly right away, they'll light up and they'll be like, hey, we can talk about this. Or if you, you know, like, you know, this is a big example with, like, service stuff, particularly in America, where if you give them, like, a little bit of chocolate or something like that, like, I've heard on planes you're meant to give the flight attendants, like, chocolate, and they might give you a first class upgrade. Again, I don't know how true that is, but it's something I hear all the time, and it's like, interesting. That's really weird how that works. They're like, oh yeah, if you show you're willing to go, like, above and beyond in some way, and, you know, not just ask, but, like, have something to back that up, and have something that shows, like, yeah, I really am, like, trying my best here or something. I'm not sure what that is, but, you know, you see that in service. Like, if you tip, for instance, that's just giving someone money. That's how streamers work, for instance. Even, you know, actually, that's how I work, right? Like, everyone can just say, like, hey, I'm your biggest fan. I've never seen that person before, but they claim to be the biggest fan. But, like, it's an easy way to, like, you know, sort apart, like, oh, well, clearly this person, because no matter how much money you have, it's always like a hassle to send some amount of money, but it's like, oh, this person sent like $5 of their message, probably implies that they are like, you know, someone who like actually is a fan on some level. Because honestly, the number of things you'll give $5 to, even, again, no matter how rich you are, it's probably not a big list. Whereas the number of things that you write a text message trying to get a response from is probably a lot further. Like, I've chatted sometimes in streams where I see on the stream and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool that shows up. Or if I have like a free sponsorship, just to be like, oh, I showed up on screen for a second. I use it every month because you get a free like Twitch Prime thing. Anyway, basically, it's kind of interesting to see. I do it on smaller YouTubers live streams actually. I'll hop in and I'll like throw in, you know, a few pounds or so, and it's just like, yeah, here you go, man. I think it's cool what you're doing here, and I think it's there's something about the gesture. I don't know what it is, but like it's not always just money. I think in the easiest solution is always gonna be money, right? But like showing like you know, an above that's why, you know, so many, you know, YouTubers have like fan mail things. It's like, oh, if you're willing to physically write a letter and put a stamp on it and send it somewhere, it matters more than just like a comment on the internet. Or, oh yeah, if you send me some things from this or that, because I've actually considered opening a PO box for a while, but again, reasons get in the way of that, like trying to, you know, stay private or whatever. But yeah, the truth is I think appreciating sometimes that you're one of like 1,000 people someone interact with means you have to be unique. This is actually, you know, to sidetrack this from like give airline staff either money. Actually, I don't know if you meant to give them money. That's probably a bribe, but give them chocolate and, you know, give streamers money because, you know, I'm totally not biased when I say give streamers money. But no, basically the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's interesting that you also get this in like social conversations, in dating in particular, right? Where, oh yeah, if you're speaking to someone, you immediately need to filter them out because there's so many people you'll speak to, and if you only ever get one partner in your life, you gotta make sure there's something important. So how do you stand out? You try to signify something that's kind of rare. And my favorite one, this is always my first like go-to, like I have to talk about this with someone, whether it's a friend or like usually a friend, but like always if it's like you know, again, like a girl today, it has to be like, I'm gonna ask you about video games, and we're gonna see how that one goes, because again, it's that kind of in-group out-group thing of like, how do you tell if someone's like on the same side as you, same wavelength? Well, if you talk about video games and they're like one of the like, you know, 20% of people who play them, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And if they play some of the same ones, then you have always something to talk about. Because I don't know, it's always good to like have that base level of like connection. A lot of people get this. This is the same reason actually why some people, they'll just trash talk other people, like in a fun way, you know, like, I really hate this person or this thing, because how much you hate something is one of those like big connections that you'll never usually make with people, but like if you do make it, then it's a big thing. And you know, I sound like I'm crazy here, but it's something interesting I noticed where like, oh, I'll try to ask people about video games early on, and it's my signal, and it's the same thing in reverse. It's on the very first question, one of my long-term friends, again, we're not friends anymore for reasons I've explained, where like, oh, he got really angry about one particular, like, I think it was a political issue, but yeah, the guy, his first question was like, so which Legend of Zelda game is the best? And it's like, you know, you're a guy I can get along with there. I think he said Majora's Mask. I said like, oh, probably Wind Waker. Had a little bit of an argument, and it's like, yeah, that's good stuff. And yeah, so there's something you can say to everyone, or there's something you can do for everyone, or something you can give to everyone to kind of show that you're above the crowd. And I think in any situation where someone deals with so many people, again, think about how many like passengers like a plane attendant must go through. Like there's like 500 people on a big plane, maybe like 200 on a small plane, but like if you go through like 10 in a day, that's 2,000 people. Think about how many people you see on like, if you're in a big city, I know that's not necessarily all of you, but you know, on the metro, I must go past 10,000 people a day every time I'm on the metro. Maybe like 1,000, but still, I go past so many people every single day that it's like you have to be a more unique person. And that's actually why I think that in the country, everyone's more friendly, because you don't need to be that rare, unique person. By being, you know, just by existing, you are the rare, unique person. Everyone trusts each other if you live in like the really vague rural parts of the country, because you might be the third person someone sees that day, and it's like, hey, it's Jimmy again. You know, just by being someone they know, that's already something. Or even if you're someone that they don't know, that's rare too. Like, I think there's something special about that there's something about, you know, like city life that kind of changes how you need to like understand people, because it's all about not being just a person, it's about being a unique person. Like everyone has feelings as a person, right? Like there are things I like, there are things I dislike, there are things that make me sad, there are things that make me happy. But you know, it's about being, so, you know, and that's true for everyone I'm gonna meet. So just someone being like, hey, I'm a human too. You know that? Want to come meet up? That's not quite so exciting. It's like, hey, there's this rare thing and that rare thing. And yeah, this is the craziest talk I've ever spoken about. Because sometimes I break down like social interactions on this level, and like some percent of people like agree, and some people are like, Toy Cat, I think you might be clinically insane. So if you think I'm in that second category, my apologies, but let's move on to talk about my recent adventure with cooking, because I know a lot of people love cooking with Toy Cat on the channel, but I really have been enjoying the concept of cooking recently because, you know, cooking is just, it seems like this really fancy art, and I think, you know, on some level it really is, but the truth is just cooking takes time, and it takes, like, you know, ingredients, which can be expensive, and just because it takes those two things with a little bit of skill, I'm going to say it requires a lot of skill, but, like, because I can do it, like, a medium amount of skill for most things, because it requires, like, some amount of skill, like, not everyone does it, but the truth is like, cooking, super, super fun. I've been, again, I've been cooking a whole bunch. I cooked, like, 4 of these, like, meal boxes things, and it's so cool what you can actually just create just with some cool ingredients together. And the reason I bring this up is because I think there are so many skills out there like this that seem so intimidating on the surface, but the truth is anyone can do them. Like, I mean, for instance, if you see a YouTuber who's really good at a game, the only reason they're so good, you know, I'm not actually doing well in this background gameplay, but let's pretend I'm playing Fortnite well, for the sake of this argument. You know, like, oh, how are you avoiding the zone there, or whatever you're thinking. The truth is usually that there's just a few tiny things that separate you from something amazing. Like, oh, tiny tip of, like, always be thinking about where someone is. Tiny tip of, like, this and then that. And actually, you know what? So that brings me back to, like, why I started my YouTube channel, because there's a lot of, like, tiny tips in there, right? There are so many tiny things. I think just if you watch my YouTube channel for the last 2 years, you're probably like 10 times more in the know about Minecraft. And it's same with like the geography channel, right? Like you probably learned about like 50 new countries in the last year, even if you knew nothing about them. Because the truth is like we're all humans that all probably have at least some amount of ability to pick up knowledge. Like I think there are some things I could never get great at, like dancing, for instance. You require a lot of like coordination and it just doesn't work for me. Or like singing, I don't actually, okay, I think I'm what people call tone deaf. I don't understand when people sit there with a guitar and they're like A, B, C sharp, C, D, D sharp, H, G, F, whatever you know they're doing. And it's like that, it just sounds like you're making a cute noise there. But people can tell exactly what a note is. I don't know how that is, but they can do it. But it's one of those skills I could never pick up. But most skills I think you could pick up if you just try a little bit. And there's this intimidating barrier to entry and everything, and I think the internet's really good for helping with that. So, for instance, have you ever wanted to just, have you wanted to play Fortnite well? Have you never won a game? Well, I don't know, if you watch like a single video, all you need to do is pick up like 4 or 5 tips. Like that's realistically all it'd be like, so there's some base amount of skill you need, like get good at aiming, you know, turn up your sensitivity, turn down your sensitivity, find whatever you need to do there. You know, all you need to do to like get good at, like, surviving the last battles is like, try not to fight people. The more fights you're in, the more you might lose. So do that again, and then just a few tiny things, and suddenly you're going really well, right? So, yeah, there's my life lesson for today. You can get really good at anything quickly, and I think everyone who's really good at something have an interest in, like, making it seem difficult. So, I think some YouTubers do this with editing, right? Where they really, really over-edit videos. And I honestly, to this day, I still really, I believe in one, you know, the whole, like, you can help people with just 3 or 4 tips. All you need to do is get 1 tip to, like, stick in someone's brain, and you can really improve their experience with something. And I also think that, you know, one of the beliefs on YouTube is that the less you cut something, the better, and the better it flows, in my opinion. This is something that a lot of movies do too, where they try to keep the action in one cut. It's not that common, but it's a thing they'll do. Because if you cut a bunch, like you'll see Vine people do, because they use the 7-second clips, it's really good for like re-getting your attention every now and then. Kind of like when you're talking, you're meant to talk like this, and then you're meant to really announce something before going down like this and talking about how the zoos are really great on Mars. But the truth is that, or like Mars is a planet, not a country. But you know, the zoos are really great in Singapore. But the truth is that behind the zoos there is some animal cruelty. But you know, that's fine really. If you switch back and forth, you can recapture someone's attention. Whereas a long cut, if someone is staying attentive, it's just better for keeping it, you know? Like that's really the difference between the two. And I feel like, you know, if you don't over-edit things, if you try and rely on like the narrative or what you're saying, or you know, just the tips to do something, you can hopefully make a better experience for those of you people who are enjoying your videos. But again, with the current YouTube stuff, I don't know if that's true, but it is something that it maybe gets you thinking, or maybe it doesn't get you thinking at all. But anyway, it's a serious Sunday. The whole point is to get you not thinking or just, you know, having a fun time with your podcast. So one more thing before we go here, because I feel like everything I've discussed so far has been like, so, you know, Sunday can be really chill because everything's quite simple. I think that's the big lesson. So in the same way that like any skill can be learned with 1 tip, I feel like the 1 tip that you can take with you for life that will just make everything better is like, you know, think about how much effort something really takes, and like if you split up into tasks and make them all doable, think about you having done it and what it takes to get you there. It's really, really simple to do most things. Like in school, I wouldn't do most things because it's like, oh gosh, there's so many steps I have to do today. But if you just think like, what's the next step? I can do that so easily. Breaking something up into a lot of like individually doable tasks, you'll eventually find like a zone. At least that's what I found. And yeah, being in the zone is like a really satisfying experience. So if you've never found that and you never, again, maybe it only applies to certain things, then yeah, it's a really cool thing to find. Find your zone, whatever your zone is in, and realize that you can learn anything really, really simply with just a tip or two. So anyway, this has been Serious Sunday. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you in another one. Bye.